So what will it take to turn this glimmer of hope, if it even is that, into a deal? Well, joining me now to go head-to-head, Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz and Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. You know, Debbie, I know you like the guy, but I listened to the President today for 90 minutes giving a press conference in which he refused to talk to any television journalists, talked to a random bunch of print hacks. He went on and on. It was one of the longest drones I think I've ever listened to. And at the end of it, nothing. Nothing actually happened. Nothing was achieved. All he did was inform us why nothing's happening. And he could have used that time, to me, to much greater benefit to the American people if he just sat in a room with John Boehner until they got an agreement. What is the matter with them?
Well, there's absolutely nothing the matter. On the contrary, with President Obama, on the contrary, what's going on here is that Republicans are dug in so far that they've practically got the dirt over the tops of their heads, and someone rational needs to throw them a shovel.
Right, but so are the Democrats,
We've got to work together.
Debbie, so are the Democrats. So
no,
yes, 10% more Americans. Well, 10% more Americans blame the Republicans, and yes, some of the Republicans, like Ted Cruz, have been absurdly intransigent, trying to upend Obamacare and so on. But there comes a point, if you're the President of the United States and it's your government that shuts down, you've got to be the big guy. You've got to get in a room and do business.
Yes, he does, and he's willing to do that. But not, as he said, with a gun to our heads. Not where the Republicans are saying that we must, in order to reopen the government, we must have changes to Obamacare. That we have to do it their way, and that the only way the government is going to open is if we hold the economy hostage and change the Affordable Care Act, which has been law for 3 years. And again, we've heard this before, upheld by the Supreme Court, an election decided over it. So it's very simple. We just need to vote on a clean spending resolution to reopen the government. We need to pay the nation's bills. And then, yes, we should sit down, and there are a myriad of things that we should negotiate over, that we should discuss.
Okay,
we have entitlement.
All right, you're turning into President Obama with this monologue, so let me cut you off.
Sure.
Marsha Blackburn, I mean, all this is true, depending on who you talk to on both sides. There are arguments on both sides. Personally, I blame the Republicans more than I blame the Democrats on this one. But right now, like most of the Americans, I blame both sides. I want to see business done.
You're exactly right, and they should be blaming both sides. And I can tell you what, Piers, if it were up to Debbie and I think you would see the two of us sit down at a table and try to work something out. Here is what we have done over the past, yes, she and I would agree on that.
We've already talked about that.
Right.
Well, I don't really want you two agreeing all night.
We can get it done.
Let's just park this,
but here's where we
this
go.
amicable side to one side.
Right, here's what we have done. We have offered and continue to offer. We have sent 4 different CRs. We have sent a budget. We've sent 12 different funding bills. And what we hear from, and with bipartisan support, we have had 200 Democrats in the House vote with us on different funding measures, Piers, that we have sent to the Senate. Harry Reid will not take them up. And then we have a president who says he doesn't want to negotiate with us. Now, we have never had a president not negotiate a debt ceiling deal. We know that our nation cannot continue to borrow $2 billion a day. We ask them, join us at the table, work with us. We need to work to a solution that is going to be fair for the American taxpayer and is going to be respectful of that taxpayer.
I've got to try and keep these speeches to a minimum. So let me go back to Debbie, because, all right, let's get to the bigger picture here. The shutdown's been very annoying, and as we will see when I speak to some people in a moment, very harrowing for certain Americans, many Americans, in fact. But let's put that to one side for a moment, because the much bigger problem looming is this debt ceiling issue, which, if that was not to go the right way and there was no deal done, would be utter catastrophe. As Warren Buffett called it, a nuclear explosion, effectively, politically and financially. What basically Marsha Blackburn is saying is what I've always suspected, that the Republicans know they can't really win on the shutdown argument. What they really want to do is wrap it all round a grand bargain on the debt ceiling. Notwithstanding the irritation of the shutdown, Debbie, do you think that actually that may be the sensible way to resolve this? Get it all done in one go.
I think we'd be thrilled to get it all done at once. We have to make sure, no question, that we don't jeopardize the full faith and credit of the United States, that we pay the nation's bills. We have to make sure that we do that not tying extraneous settled matters like the Affordable Care Act in order to make sure we can pay our nation's bills. So, as I've said many times, if we can agree that we have to have the government reopened, which the Republicans shut down in withholding Obamacare, as ransom, we have to agree that we can't jeopardize the full faith and credit of the United States and pay our nation's bills, and we can work towards that separate and apart from dealing with the inevitable kinks that will arise as Obamacare is implemented. And if we also can agree that everyone should have access to a quality, affordable health care, then that is a basis for us to negotiate.
You two were boasting to me a few minutes ago that you would be able to do a deal in a room together. So come on, Marsha, that's the opening gambit from Debbie. Go right back at it. Let's do a deal here.
I will. See, what you have to realize is all these extraneous matters that are a part of a budget, they are line items in a budget. And if you're going to look at a budget, at appropriations, at a funding mechanism, you have to say, where are we spending this money?
Okay, we'll do a deal.
Where is the greatest pressure?
You two live up to your promise, Marsha. I want to see a deal done. What is the deal between a sensible Republican and a sensible Democrat? Where is the point where you think this could be honorably settled?
Well, I'll throw it out. I think we can both agree that we haven't, it doesn't make sense to pass a CR with the arbitrary across-the-board spending cuts that are included in the sequester, that we need more targeted spending cuts, and that we need to be more precision-like in the spending cuts that we make. So that to me should be a basis for agreement. I've talked to Republicans and Democrats who both agree. Now, it might be harder to agree on the spending levels and on what we actually cut and what we spend more money on, but I don't think anyone is happy with the across-the-board indiscriminate spending cuts that we've got in the sequester now, which we've already agreed to, by the way, the Republican number, just so that we can get, even though we oppose it, just so that we can get past the government being closed.
All right, Marsha, sounds reasonable to me.
In the president's word, those sequester levels would be settled law, and those would be numbers that we would agree to. Now, what we have to do is look at that 10-year window, or even the 1-year window that a continuing resolution covers, and say what is going to transpire in that window. The reason you have to have a discussion about Obamacare and look at what can possibly be delayed in that program is because it has gone from being an $863 billion program to an estimate of $2.6 trillion.
Oh, but that is
now, there are other things. Those are CBO numbers. No. Those are CBO numbers. And those are numbers that we're using. I will show you.
That's simply not true.
I will show you those numbers, because when you're going to look at the cost of these programs and the total cost of what is going to be and what will have an impact on the economy, all of that has to be put on the table. And we have to look at the overall. We have to look at the overall spending measures.
We do.
And when we're borrowing $2 billion, and when we're borrowing $2 billion a day, we have to say, okay,
look,
where can we get these reductions?
I'm calling an end to this. As I suspected, despite your boasts, the pair of you, it's ended with eye-rolling, grimacing, and cries of, oh, come off it, Martha. So this is why this is so difficult. Even reasonable people as yourselves seem completely implacable. So off you go. No, that's it for tonight. We'll talk again tomorrow and see if we can make any more headway. Ladies, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Piers.
Coming ahead, a story that